53. My life collapsed in one night. I had spent 20 years building my catering business, Elegance by Harper. People trusted me. I planned weddings, charity galas, and city events. Then one freezer failed. The seafood spoiled. Dozens of guests got sick at a charity gala. Lawsuits followed. Insurance refused to cover it. Suppliers vanished. My reputation disappeared overnight. My husband Gavin didn't wait for things to improve. He packed his clothes and stood in our bedroom like a stranger. "You've ruined our lives," he said. That sentence ended our marriage. Within weeks, the penthouse was gone. My accounts were empty. I moved into my sister Claire's spare room with 2 suitcases and a broken sense of dignity. My daughter Mia had to leave college and work retail. Then her asthma got worse. Her inhaler cost $60. I checked my bank balance. $22.47. That was how I ended up walking into a plasma donation center on a Monday morning, hoping my body was worth $40. I didn't know it was worth millions. The waiting room smelled like disinfectant and quiet desperation. College kids scrolled on their phones. An old man slept in the corner. I filled out the form slowly, embarrassed by every answer. Name: Harper Bennett. Age 53. Address: I wrote my sisters. 6 months ago I lived on Lakeshore Drive. A nurse named Andrea called my name. She smiled kindly and wrapped a cuff around my arm. "You have great veins," she said. "This will be easy." At least something about me still worked. She took a small blood sample and left the room. I waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. My stomach tightened. When Andrea returned, her face was pale. She told me the doctor needed to speak with me. Panic. I thought I was sick. Dr. Stewart entered and closed the door. He sat down slowly, like he didn't want to scare me. "Mrs. Bennett," he said, "your blood is extremely rare." I laughed nervously. "Rare bad or rare good?" He looked at me carefully. "Rare life-saving." Dr. Stewart explained that my blood type was Rh null, also called golden blood. Only about 42 people in the world had it. It could be used when no other blood would work. I stared at him. "I came here for $40. Before I could ask more, his pager went off. He rushed out of the room. Minutes later, a man in a perfect suit walked in. He didn't belong in a clinic. "My name is Tim Blackwood," he said. "I represent a Swiss businessman named Alexander Richter." Alexander was dying. He needed heart surgery. My blood was the only match they had found in the Western Hemisphere. Tim said they were offering $3 million for my help. Felt dizzy. Private jet was waiting. Today, asked to call my daughter. Mia listened calmly and told me to read every word before agreeing. I did. I negotiated limits, safety rules, my right to stop if my health was at risk. They agreed to everything. 3 hours later, I was boarding a jet to Switzerland with nothing but my purse and a life that no longer made sense. That morning I couldn't afford medicine. That night I was priceless. The clinic in Switzerland looked like a luxury resort. My room had a balcony overlooking Lake Geneva, marble floors, quiet halls, staff who spoke softly and treated me like royalty. I cried alone that first night. Not from happiness but shock. The next morning, doctors explained the donation process in detail. They watched my vitals closely. They fed me carefully. When they drew my blood, they handled it like treasure. That afternoon my phone buzzed. It was Gavin. "Are you sick?" he texted. "I heard you're in Switzerland." I stared at the message. He hadn't checked on me when I was homeless. Now he was concerned. I didn't reply. That evening I met Alexander Richter. He was tall, thin and pale, but his eyes were sharp, powerful. He thanked me for being there and asked why I had gone to donate plasma. "For $40, I said honestly. He studied me quietly. "You lost everything," he said. "Yet you carry something priceless." It was the first time since my marriage ended that someone truly saw me. Over the next days, I donated blood under constant medical care. Each time they treated me with respect. Each time I felt stronger instead of weaker. Alexander and I talked often. About business, failure, loneliness. He had wealth beyond imagination but no family nearby. I had family but little support. One evening, he gave me a small bracelet as a thank you gift. I wasn't sure if it was appropriate, but I accepted it politely. Then Mia called. "Dad showed up at Aunt Claire's," she said. "He's asking questions about the money." My chest tightened. Gavin had followed the trail. Soon after, he texted me, saying we should talk as a family. The words made me angry. He hadn't acted like family when I needed him most. Alexander noticed my worry. Without me asking, he had his lawyers research my divorce situation. "You deserve what is yours," he told me calmly. No one had ever said that to me before. The day of Alexander's surgery arrived. I waited alone for hours, pacing my room. I realized I cared deeply whether he lived. That scared me. When Dr. Weber finally came, he told me the surgery was successful. I sat down hard, relief flooding my body. I visited Alexander days later. He was weak but alive. "I dreamed of you," he whispered. "You were holding something bright." Later that day, his son David arrived from Singapore. He was polite but distant. I could tell he didn't trust me. He thought I wanted more than what we agreed on. Back home, Gavin hired lawyers. I stood firm. Weeks later, I returned to Chicago. I rented a modest apartment overlooking the lake. Nothing fancy, just mine. Gavin tried to negotiate a settlement. I refused. "You left when I had nothing," I told him. "You don't get to return now." For the first time I felt steady. Alexander recovered slowly but steadily. We spoke often by phone. He shared an idea inspired by my story: helping businesses recover after major failure. First I hesitated. I didn't want to be controlled. So we adjusted the plan. I would lead. He would invest. I would own my work. Meanwhile, Mia received news that shocked us both. She was offered a scholarship to study architecture in Geneva, based on her portfolio alone. I cried from pride. When Gavin came to my door one final time, I didn't shake. "This new confidence doesn't suit you," he said. "It saved me," I replied. That night Alexander called. "Visit me," he said. "Not as a donor. As Harper." For the first time in years, my future felt like it belonged to me. Returning to Switzerland felt different this time. I wasn't desperate. I wasn't afraid. I was invited. Alexander looked stronger. Color had returned to his face. We spent hours talking, walking slowly through gardens, sharing quiet meals. He never pressured me. He never rushed me. Back in Chicago, my business plans took shape. Eventuality Consulting. Company built on recovery, not perfection. Gavin faded into silence. Mia prepared for her new life in Europe. One evening, Alexander admitted something quietly. "You saved my life," he said. "Not just with your blood." I understood what he meant. His loneliness had been killing him too. "So did you," I told him honestly. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the mountains. For the first time in months, I felt truly at peace with where my life was heading. 3 months passed before I discovered the real betrayal. Claire invited me to Sunday dinner at her house. She said the whole family would be there. I hesitated but agreed. Mia would be home visiting from Geneva. I arrived early, carrying wine I could finally afford. The house smelled like roasted chicken. Claire hugged me tightly. "You look amazing," she said. "Switzerland agrees with you." Smiled. Things were better now. My consulting business was launching next month. Alexander and I talked daily. Mia was thriving. Gavin arrived next with his new girlfriend, a woman half his age named Brittany. She wore too much makeup and giggled constantly. Then my brother Mark showed up with his wife Susan. We sat down to eat. The conversation started pleasant enough. Small talk. Weather. Mia's classes. Then Claire poured more wine and said something that made my blood freeze. Harper, we need to talk about Mom's house. I set down my fork slowly. What about Mom's house? I asked. My mother had died 2 years ago before my business collapsed. She left her house to me and my siblings equally. We had agreed to keep it in the family. Claire glanced at Mark. He cleared his throat. We sold it, Mark said. 6 months ago. The room went silent. I stared at them. You sold it without telling me. You were homeless, Harper, Claire said defensively. You couldn't contribute to the taxes or upkeep. We couldn't afford to keep waiting. So you sold our mother's house while I was sleeping in your spare room. Gavin laughed quietly. It was a cruel sound. What's the problem? He asked. You're rich now anyway. That's when I realized something terrible. They had all known. They had all agreed. They had sold the house and split the money while I had nothing. How much did you get? I asked quietly. Mark wouldn't meet my eyes. The house sold for $420,000. We each got a third. $140 each. My share was $140,000. Money that could have saved my business. Money that could have kept me off the streets. They had taken it while I slept in Claire's spare room. Where's my share? I asked, my voice shaking. Claire and Mark exchanged looks. We used it to cover the debts you left behind, Claire said carefully. The lawyer fees from your lawsuits. The money you owed vendors. We paid them off for you. Felt dizzy. I never asked you to do that. You couldn't, Mark said. You were broke. We were protecting the family name. Your business nearly ruined all of us. Gavin leaned back in his chair, smirking. They did you a favor, Harper. You should be grateful. Mia stood up suddenly. Her chair scraped loud against the floor. You stole from her, she said, her voice cold. While she had nothing, you stole her inheritance. We saved her reputation, Susan snapped. She should thank us. I looked around the table. At my sister who had let me cry in her house while hiding my money. At my brother who had always been jealous of my success. At my ex-husband who had left me broken. They had all betrayed me together. Get out, Claire said to me suddenly. If you're going to be ungrateful, leave my house. I stood slowly. My hands were steady now. I'll leave, I said quietly. But this isn't over. Mia drove us back to my apartment in silence. When we got inside, she finally spoke. Mom, what are you going to do? I sat down heavily. My mind was racing. They had stolen $140,000 from me. They had done it while I was homeless. They had done it together as a family behind my back. I called Alexander. It was late in Switzerland, but he answered immediately. What's wrong? He asked. I told him everything. The house, the money, the lies. He listened quietly. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. Did you authorize them to pay your debts with your inheritance? He asked. No, never. Then they committed fraud. Possibly theft. My heart pounded. I don't want to destroy my family. Harper, he said gently. They already destroyed you. You're just now finding out. He was right. The next morning I contacted a lawyer named Rachel Kim. She specialized in estate fraud. I gave her every detail. She called me back 3 hours later. This is clear-cut theft, she said. We can file criminal charges or sue civilly. Your choice. I thought about Claire's face. Mark's excuses. Gavin's smirk. Both, I said. Rachel moved fast. Within a week, she had filed a lawsuit against Claire, Mark, and the estate executor for misappropriation of inheritance funds. She also reported the case to the police. I didn't tell them it was coming. The first they heard was when the sheriff showed up at Claire's door with a summons. She called me immediately, screaming. You're suing your own family, she yelled. After everything I did for you. You stole from me, I said calmly. While I slept in your house. I gave you a place to live. And you robbed me while I was there. She hung up. Mark called next. He tried reasoning. Harper, this is going to tear the family apart. Is money really worth it? You thought it was, I said. 6 months ago. He had no answer. Gavin called too, but I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail saying I was being dramatic, that I had always been emotional, that I should drop the lawsuit before I embarrassed myself. I deleted it without finishing. Rachel filed for full financial discovery. She demanded bank records, emails, text messages. Everything. The truth would come out now. The discovery process revealed something worse than I imagined. They hadn't just taken my share of the house. They had planned it carefully. Rachel showed me email chains between Claire and Mark from 8 months ago, right after my business failed. Harper's broke, Claire had written. She won't recover. We should sell now and use her share to clean up her mess before it affects us. Mark had agreed immediately. She'll never know, he wrote back. She's too embarrassed to ask about money. They had waited until I was at my lowest. They had calculated my desperation. But it got worse. Gavin had been in on it too. There was an email from him to Claire, dated 2 weeks after he left me. When you sell the house, make sure Harper doesn't see a dime until I get my settlement from the divorce. She owes me for the penthouse. My hands shook reading it. They had conspired together. My husband, my sister, my brother. All of them planning how to take what was mine while I donated plasma for grocery money. Rachel looked at me seriously. This is criminal conspiracy, Harper. They coordinated to defraud you. We can push for criminal charges now. I nodded slowly. Do it. The criminal investigation started quietly, but news spread fast through the family. My Aunt Linda called, begging me to drop it. Think of the family reputation, she said. I thought of sleeping in Claire's spare room, crying myself to sleep while my sister counted my stolen money downstairs. No, I told her. My cousin James tried next. He said I was being vindictive. That forgiveness was important. They can ask for forgiveness, I said, after they face consequences. The police interviewed Claire, Mark, and Gavin separately. Rachel said they all blamed each other. Claire said it was Mark's idea. Mark said Claire pushed for it. Gavin claimed he was just giving financial advice. Liars, all of them. The local news picked up the story. Chicago woman sues siblings for inheritance fraud after business collapse. My phone exploded with messages. Some people supported me. Others called me heartless. I ignored both. Alexander flew to Chicago to be with me during the preliminary hearing. He sat in the back of the courtroom quietly. His presence steadied me. When Claire saw him, her face went pale. She finally understood I wasn't alone anymore. The judge reviewed the evidence quickly. Emails, bank records, timelines. He set a trial date for 6 weeks away. This is serious, he said, looking at my siblings. I suggest you consider settlement. Claire's lawyer contacted Rachel the next day with a settlement offer. They would return my full share of the house, $140,000, plus legal fees. In exchange, I would drop all criminal and civil charges. Rachel called me immediately. It's a good offer, she said. You'd get your money back and avoid a long trial. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. No, I said. They need to face consequences. Money isn't enough. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Are you sure? Trials are brutal, Harper. They'll try to destroy your reputation. They already did that, I said. When they stole from me while I was homeless. We rejected the settlement. Claire tried calling me directly. I didn't answer. She left voicemails crying, saying she was sorry, that she had made a mistake, that she never meant to hurt me. But the emails told a different story. The emails showed planning, calculation, greed. 2 weeks before trial, Mark's lawyer reached out separately. He was willing to testify against Claire in exchange for reduced charges. Rachel smiled when she told me. They're turning on each other now. Gavin stayed silent. His lawyer advised him to keep quiet. But I knew he was worried. The divorce had been finalized, but this case could reopen everything. The walls were closing in on all of them. The trial lasted 3 days. The courtroom was cold and sterile. Claire sat at the defense table looking small and scared. Mark sat separately with his lawyer. Gavin was there as a witness. Rachel presented the evidence methodically. Emails, bank statements, timelines showing they sold the house while I was homeless. Records proving they spent my share without my permission. Claire's lawyer tried to argue they had acted in my best interest, that they had protected me from creditors. Rachel destroyed that argument quickly. Mrs. Bennett never authorized them to use her inheritance, she said. They made that decision for her while she was vulnerable. That's not protection. That's theft. The jury listened carefully. On day 2, Mark testified. He admitted they had planned the sale without telling me. He said Claire had pushed for it, but he had agreed. I thought Harper was never going to recover, he said quietly. I thought we were helping. By stealing her inheritance. Rachel asked. He had no answer. Gavin testified next. He tried to distance himself from the scheme, but Rachel showed his emails clearly encouraging Claire to withhold my money until his divorce settlement. His face went red as the judge read them aloud. You wanted to financially control your ex-wife even after leaving her? The judge asked. Gavin stumbled over his words. On day 3 I testified. I sat in the witness box and told the truth. I explained how my business had collapsed. How Gavin had left. How I had moved into Claire's spare room with nothing. Did your sister tell you she was selling your mother's house? Rachel asked. No, I said. I found out 6 months later at a family dinner. Did she tell you what she did with your share? She said they used it to pay my debts. But I never asked them to do that. I never authorized it. What would that money have meant to you at the time? My voice cracked. Everything. It would have meant I could afford my daughter's medicine. It would have meant I didn't have to sell plasma to survive. It would have meant I had a chance to rebuild. The courtroom was silent. Claire's lawyer tried to cross-examine me. He suggested I was exaggerating my situation, that I was now wealthy and didn't need the money. This isn't about what I have now, I said firmly. This is about what they took from me when I had nothing. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the verdict was clear. Guilty on all counts of fraud and misappropriation of estate funds. Claire cried. Mark stared at the table. Gavin left the courtroom immediately. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. Rachel squeezed my hand. You won, Harper. But I didn't feel victorious. Felt tired. Sentencing day arrived cold and gray. The judge looked at Claire and Mark seriously. You exploited your sister's vulnerability for financial gain, he said. You violated the trust of family during her darkest moment. This court takes that seriously. Claire received 2 years of probation, 300 hours of community service, and was ordered to repay my full share of $140,000 plus 20% interest. Mark received the same. Additionally, Gavin was ordered to pay $50,000 in damages for his role in the conspiracy. Rachel had pushed for jail time, but the judge showed mercy because of their lack of prior criminal records. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Do you feel justice was served? One asked. I thought carefully before answering. Justice would have been my family supporting me when I lost everything, I said. This is just accountability. Claire tried to approach me on the steps. Security stopped her. Harper, please, she called out. I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I looked at her for a long moment. You didn't make a mistake, I said quietly. You made a choice. Every day for 6 months, you chose to lie to me. I walked away without looking back. Mia was waiting by the car. She hugged me tightly. It's over, Mom, she whispered. Almost. 6 months later, I stood in my new office overlooking downtown Chicago. Eventuality Consulting was thriving. Companies hired us to help them recover from disasters, to rebuild after failure. I understood their pain. I knew the way back. Mia graduated with honors in Geneva. She decided to stay in Europe for her master's degree. I visited her monthly. Alexander and I grew closer slowly, carefully. He flew to Chicago often. We talked about building something together. Not a company. Life. The money from Claire and Mark arrived in my account. Every penny of my inheritance, plus interest. I donated half to a foundation supporting women rebuilding after financial disaster. The rest I invested in myself. Gavin tried to contact me once. I deleted the message without reading it. Claire sent letters. I returned them unopened. Some people said I was cruel, that I should forgive family. But I had learned something important. Family isn't just blood. Family is the people who stand beside you when you have nothing to offer but yourself. Alexander said it best one evening as we watched the sunset from my balcony. You didn't just survive, Harper, he said. You discovered your worth. He was right. For 53 years, I had measured my value by my business, my marriage, my family's approval. I had been wrong. My worth was never in what I built or who I pleased. It was always in my blood. In my resilience. In my refusal to disappear when the world said I should. They had tried to steal my future. Instead, they showed me I never needed their permission to build a new one. I smiled, watching the city lights flicker on below. My life hadn't ended that Sunday night. It had finally begun.